Elena Vasquez stood in the center of the Grand Assembly Hall, surrounded by thousands of alien beings. The massive dome stretched high above her head, filled with floating platforms where representatives from across the galaxy watched her every move. She had been Earth's ambassador for 5 years, but today felt different. Today the air itself seemed heavy with danger. The Vorthon Prime Speaker rose from his crystal throne, his body glowing with pale blue light. He was tall, almost 3 meters high, with a form that looked like living glass. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the hall like the sound of breaking ice. "The Galactic Concordat recognizes the human delegation," he announced. "Ambassador Vasquez, you will hear the judgment of the Hegemony Council." Elena's heart began to race. A judgment meant serious trouble. The Hegemony was made up of the 12 most powerful species in the galaxy. When they made judgments, entire civilizations could disappear. Another figure stepped forward. This one was Korthak, with thick gray skin and 4 arms. Admiral Threnix had commanded fleets that destroyed rebel worlds. His deep voice rumbled across the hall. "Humans have been part of galactic society for 300 years, he began. "In that time, we have watched. We have studied. We have learned to fear what you might become." Elena felt cold sweat on her back, but she kept her face calm. Around the hall, alien delegates leaned forward to listen. Some looked curious, others seemed excited, as if watching a show. "Your species expands too quickly," Admiral Threnix continued. "You build colonies on worlds others consider impossible to live on. You adapt your technology faster than any species we have ever seen. Most dangerous of all, you fight wars among yourselves with a violence that disturbs peaceful civilizations." The Vorthon Prime Speaker activated a holographic display above the assembly. Images appeared in the air: human cities, spaceships, battles from Earth's history. Elena recognized scenes from the world wars, the colonial conflicts, even recent fights between mining companies in the outer colonies. "But we have discovered something even more troubling," the Prime Speaker said. His crystal form pulsed with brighter light. "Our intelligence services have intercepted communications about something called Project Lazarus. Humans are building weapons in secret. They are preparing for war." Elena's blood turned to ice. Project Lazarus was classified at the highest levels. How did the aliens know about it? "Therefore," Admiral Threnix announced, "the Hegemony Council delivers this ultimatum to the human species. You will surrender all military vessels to our custody. You will abandon all colonies beyond your home system. You will accept protective supervision under Hegemony authority. You will submit to cultural integration programs designed to reduce your aggressive tendencies." The hall erupted in noise. Some aliens seemed shocked, others pleased. Elena heard cheering from several sections. She realized that many species wanted to see humanity brought down. "You have 7 days to accept these terms," the Prime Speaker concluded. "Refuse, and you will face the combined might of the Hegemony. We have eliminated 12 species who posed similar threats to galactic peace. Humanity will not be the 13th. Elena stood alone in the center of the hall, feeling the weight of 3 billion human lives on her shoulders. She thought of her daughter Sarah, studying engineering on Mars. She thought of the farming colonies struggling to grow food on distant worlds. She thought of all the humans who had dreamed of living free among the stars. "The Terran Federation requests the traditional deliberation period," she said, her voice steady despite her fear. "We will give our answer in 7 days." "Granted," the Prime Speaker replied. "Use the time wisely, Ambassador. The Hegemony's patience is not unlimited." As Elena left the assembly hall, she heard alien voices talking behind her. Most seemed certain that humanity would surrender. After all, what choice did they have? The Hegemony controlled 70% of known space. Their fleets had never lost a war. Their technology was centuries ahead of human science. Elena walked quickly through the station corridors to her private communication room. Her hands shook as she activated the quantum transmitter. Within minutes, she was connected to the emergency session of the Terran Council on Earth. President Chen Wei appeared on the screen. his face grim. Around him sat the leaders of every human colony and military commander she could see. General Morrison from the Mars Defense Force, Admiral Torres from the Deep Space Fleet, Governor Walsh from the mining colonies. "We heard the broadcast," President Chen said. "The entire galaxy knows about the ultimatum now. Elena, tell us honestly, do we have any chance if we fight?" Elena closed her eyes and thought about the massive fleets she had seen in hegemony. Space. Ships the size of cities, weapons that could crack planets, soldiers bred for war from a dozen different species. "Mr. President," she said slowly, "if we fight with what we have now, we'll be destroyed in days. Maybe hours." Silence filled the room. She could see despair on many faces. Some of the colonial governors were already talking about surrender terms. Then, Admiral Torres spoke up. Elena had met her a few times. A tough woman with gray hair and scars from the Centauri border war. She commanded humanity's deep space forces, the ships that protected the outer colonies. "Mr. President," Admiral Torres said quietly, "perhaps it's time we showed them what humanity really built out in the dark." President Chen looked at her with surprise. "Sarah, what are you talking about?" "Project Lazarus isn't just about new weapons," the Admiral replied. "It's about survival. It's about making sure that if this day ever came, humanity would be ready." Elena felt a spark of hope. "Admiral, are you saying we have options?" Torres looked directly at the camera. "Ambassador, I'm saying that the aliens think they know what humanity can do. They think they've been watching us carefully for 300 years, but there are things in the dark spaces between stars that they never imagined." The room fell silent again. But this time it felt different. This time, Elena could sense possibility instead of despair. President Chen leaned forward. "How long do you need, Admiral?" 72 hours to get everyone in position," Torres replied. "After that, we give them our answer." "And if they attack before we're ready?" Governor Walsh asked. Torres smiled, and Elena saw something dangerous in that expression. "Governor, the aliens are about to learn something important about humans. We don't just prepare for the wars we're fighting. We prepare for the wars we hope we'll never have to fight." Elena felt her heart beating faster, but now it was excitement instead of fear. "What do you need me to do?" "Keep them talking," President Chen said. "Use every diplomatic trick you know. Make them think we're considering surrender. Buy us 3 days and then humanity gives its answer." "What answer is that, Mr. President?" Chen's face hardened. "The same answer humans have always given to bullies and tyrants throughout our history. No, we will not kneel. We will not surrender. We will not go quietly into slavery." The transmission ended, leaving Elena alone in her small room high above the alien world. Outside her window, she could see hegemony warships patrolling the space around the diplomatic station. Their lights looked like predators' eyes in the darkness. But for the first time since entering the assembly hall, Elena smiled. The aliens thought they knew humanity. They thought 300 years of watching had taught them everything about human nature. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Elena began composing her first diplomatic message, designed to buy time and hide the truth. Meanwhile, across human space, people began to move with quiet purpose. The galaxy was about to discover what humanity had been building in the shadows, waiting for the day when their freedom would be threatened. That day had finally come. Deep in the Hegemony Intelligence Center, Surveillance Chief Zirak watched the screens that monitored human communications across the galaxy. The insectoid aliens' compound eyes could process dozens of data streams at once, looking for signs of panic or military preparation. "What are the humans doing?" Admiral Threnix asked as he entered the command center. Zirak's mandibles clicked nervously. "That is the strange thing, Admiral. They are not behaving as expected." The screens showed human colonies across dozens of star systems, mining stations, research facilities, farming worlds, industrial complexes. Everything looked normal on the surface, but something felt wrong. "Show me the communication patterns," Threnix ordered. Zirak activated a new display. Immediately after the ultimatum, We detected a single transmission sent simultaneously to every human facility. It lasted only 2.3 seconds and contained minimal data, coordinates, and a timestamp. What coordinates? Unknown. The location is an empty space, far from any human colonies. The timestamp is for 72 hours from now. Thrennick studied the data with growing concern. In his experience, doomed species reacted in predictable ways. They either surrendered immediately or began desperate military preparations that were easy to detect. The humans were doing neither. "Sir," another technician reported, "we are detecting unusual movement patterns. New screens activated showing human colonies. On the surface, everything appeared routine, but careful analysis revealed subtle changes. Families having quiet goodbye dinners, colonial militia conducting extra training exercises, deep space mining crews working around the clock, then suddenly shutting down operations. They are preparing for something," Thrennick growled. "But what?" On the mining station, Titan's Hope, 3 billion kilometers from Earth, Supervisor Jake Martinez sealed the last container of processed metals. His crew had been working for 48 hours straight, finishing a project that had taken them 15 years to complete. "That's the last of it," his assistant Maria said, exhaustion clear in her voice. "The shipment is ready." Jake looked out the window at the massive ring of metal structures surrounding the asteroid they had been mining. To casual observers, it looked like standard mining equipment. But Jake knew better. His father had helped design these installations, and his grandfather had been part of the original planning committee 50 years ago. "Maria, I need you to take the shuttle back to Ceres Station," Jake said. "Take the non-essential crew with you." "What about you?" Jake smiled sadly. "Someone needs to stay and run the equipment when the time comes. My family has been preparing for this day since before I was born. I'm not leaving now." Maria nodded. She had grown up on the mining stations too. Everyone knew what they were really building out here in the dark, even if they never talked about it openly. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Chen addressed the planet in what would be humanity's final official transmission before the deadline. Citizens gathered in their homes, on street corners, in schools and offices to listen. "My fellow humans," Chen began, 300 years ago, our species took its first steps into space. We went seeking knowledge, resources, and new homes for our growing population. We found wonder beyond imagination, strange worlds, beautiful, nebulae, and the discovery that we were not alone in the universe." He paused, looking directly into the camera. "We also found something else. We found that the galaxy is ruled by fear. Fear of change, fear of competition, fear of species that might grow strong enough to challenge the established order. Across human space, people listened with growing understanding. Children who had wondered why their parents worked such long hours on mysterious projects. Teenagers who had questioned why human colonies were built like fortresses. Adults who had always sensed that their leaders were preparing for something terrible. Today, the hegemony demands our surrender," Chen continued. "They want us to abandon our colonies, disarm our ships, and accept their control over our future. They believe we are too dangerous to remain free." On Mars, Chen's daughter Sarah watched with her engineering classmates. She had always been proud of her father, but now she understood why he had always seemed burdened by secrets. "We came to the stars as explorers, not conquerors," Chen said. "We sought friendship among the cosmos and found bureaucracy, fear, and the threat of extinction. But our ancestors taught us something important about dealing with bullies and tyrants." In the Hegemony Intelligence Center, Zirak translated the speech for Admiral Thrennick in real time. The Admiral's 4 hands clenched into fists as he listened. "The human is making a mistake," Thrennick said. "Does he not understand the power arrayed against him?" Zirak continued translating as President Chen reached the climax of his speech. "Today, humanity gives its answer to those who would chain us," Chen announced. "We are not your subjects. We are not your servants. We are not afraid." The transmission ended with 5 words that would echo through galactic history. "Humanity says no. Show them." Immediately, human communication networks went dark. Every official channel, every military frequency, Every colonial broadcast stopped transmitting. The galaxy suddenly could not hear humanity's voice at all. What just happened? Admiral Threnix demanded. Zirak's mandibles clicked rapidly as he tried to make sense of the data. Sir, all human communications have ceased. They have activated some kind of total communication blackout. Are they surrendering? Unknown, sir. We cannot detect any surrender signals, but we also cannot detect any military preparations. Threnix felt the first stirrings of unease. The humans were not behaving like any species he had encountered before. Most civilizations faced with impossible odds either submitted immediately or fought desperately with everything they had. The humans seemed to be doing something else entirely. In the deep spaces between stars, far from any inhabited system, ancient machinery began to wake up. Structures built over decades in the darkness, hidden from sensors and spy networks, started receiving the signal they had waited 50 years to hear. Admiral Sarah Torres stood on the bridge of a ship that did not officially exist. The Terran Sovereign was humanity's greatest secret, built in a construction facility that had been disguised as a failed mining operation for 3 decades. At 35 kilometers long, it was larger than many moons and packed with weapons that combined human engineering with technologies borrowed, stolen, or captured from a dozen different species. Admiral, her communications officer reported, "We are receiving responses from all units. The fleet is assembling." Torres looked at the tactical display as ships began appearing on the sensors. Vessels that had been built in secret shipyards, hidden in asteroid fields and nebulae. Colony ships converted into mobile weapons platforms. Research vessels disguised as scientific expeditions but armed with experimental weapons. Deep space mining rigs that were actually massive railgun installations. For 50 years, humanity had been preparing for this day. Every major construction project had served dual purposes. Every scientific expedition had scouted potential battlegrounds. Every mining operation had built weapons disguised as industrial equipment. "How many ships do we have, Admiral?" her tactical officer asked. Torres smiled as the numbers updated on her screen. "More than the galaxy thinks we can build. More than our enemies believe we possess. Enough to make sure humanity never kneels to anyone." The fleet that was assembling in the darkness represented the work of 3 generations. Parents who had sacrificed comfortable lives to work on classified projects their children would never know about. Engineers who had spent their careers designing ships that might never be used. Miners who had built weapons instead of just extracting resources. "Send the signal to all units," Torres ordered. "Operation Lazarus is now active. All ships prepare for quantum jump to Sol system." As the human fleet prepared to emerge from the darkness where it had waited for decades, the hegemony forces continued their preparations around Earth. They still believed they were facing a desperate, outgunned enemy that would soon surrender, or be quickly destroyed. They had no idea that humanity's real response to their ultimatum was already on its way. The galaxy was about to discover what humans had been building, while everyone else thought they were just mining asteroids and conducting research. The hegemony had demanded surrender, but they were about to receive something entirely different. They were about to meet the full power of human preparation, determination, and the will to remain free. Fleet Admiral Cathara stood on the bridge of the Sovereign Destiny, watching Earth turn slowly in the darkness. The massive dreadnought was the pride of the hegemony fleet. 30 kilometers of advanced technology and enough firepower to destroy planets. Around it, over 300 warships from 12 different species waited in perfect formation. "Status report," she ordered, her crystalline Vorthan body glowing with confidence. "All ships report ready, Admiral," her tactical officer replied. "Long-range sensors show minimal human military activity. Their deep space fleet appears to be scattered across their colonies, exactly as intelligence predicted." Cathara nodded with satisfaction. The humans had played right into hegemony expectations. Their forces were spread thin. Their largest ships were converted civilian vessels, and their technology was decades behind hegemony standards. This would be over quickly. "Admiral," the communications officer announced, "we are receiving the final human response." Elena Vasquez appeared on the main screen from the diplomatic station. She looked tired and defeated, which pleased Cathara. The human ambassador would officially announce their surrender, and galactic order would be maintained. Fleet Admiral. Kithara, Elena began. I have been authorized by the Terran Federation to deliver our final answer to the hegemony ultimatum. Proceed, Kithara replied, already preparing the orders for occupation forces. Elena straightened her shoulders and looked directly into the camera. The Terran Federation rejects your ultimatum in its entirety. We will not surrender our colonies. We will not disarm our ships. We will not accept your authority over our people. Surprised murmurs rippled across the bridge. Kithara felt her first moment of doubt. Ambassador, you understand the consequences of this decision? We understand perfectly, Elena replied. Humanity chooses to remain free, whatever the cost. The transmission ended, leaving the hegemony fleet in stunned silence. Kithara had expected surrender. Military planning had focused on occupation procedures, not actual combat. Admiral, the sensor operator called out, I'm detecting quantum signatures. Something large is approaching. Kithara moved to the sensor station. Show me. The display activated, showing space around the Sol system. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Then reality began to tear open. The first ship that emerged was unlike anything in the hegemony databases. Nearly 30 kilometers long, covered in weapons that combined human design with alien technology in ways that should have been impossible. Its hull showed signs of decades of construction, modifications, and improvements. What is that? Kithara whispered. Before anyone could answer, another ship appeared. Then another. Within minutes, space around the hegemony fleet filled with human vessels emerging from quantum jumps. But these were not the desperate civilian conversions intelligence had predicted. Admiral, the tactical officer shouted. I count over 200 vessels. Mass readings indicate these are capital ships, not converted transports. Kithara stared at the displays in growing horror. The human ships were massive, heavily armed, and clearly built for war. Worse, they were emerging in perfect coordination, surrounding the hegemony fleet with practiced precision. The largest human ship defied comprehension. Built around what appeared to be a captured asteroid, it stretched 35 kilometers from bow to stern. Launch bays covered its surface like cities, and weapon batteries that could level continents tracked across its hull. How? Kithara breathed. How did they build this? Where did they build this? Her intelligence officer ran frantic scans of the human vessels. Admiral, metallurgical analysis indicates construction times ranging from 20 to 70 years. Some of these ships have been under construction since before first contact. The terrible truth hit Kithara like a physical blow. Humanity had not just rejected the ultimatum. They had been expecting it. For decades, they had been preparing for this exact moment. A communication request came from the largest human ship. Kithara accepted it with shaking hands. Admiral Sarah Torres appeared on screen, standing on a bridge that looked like it belonged in a fortress rather than a ship. Behind her, human officers worked at stations while tactical displays showed the positions of every ship in both fleets. Fleet Admiral Kithara, Torres said calmly. I am Admiral Torres of the Terran Sovereign. You are surrounded and outgunned. Withdraw your forces immediately and no further blood need be shed today. Kithara found her voice. You cannot possibly match the hegemony's firepower. Our technology is centuries ahead of yours. Torres smiled, and Kithara saw something dangerous in that expression. Admiral, your intelligence services have been watching us for 300 years, but they were watching the wrong things. What do you mean? You saw our mining operations and thought we were just digging for resources. You saw our research stations and thought we were just studying science. You saw our colony ships and thought we were just farmers and merchants. Torres gestured at the displays around her bridge. You never realized that every asteroid mining operation was also a weapons factory. Every research station was also a military laboratory. Every colony ship was also a warship in disguise. Kithara ran new scans of the human fleet, and her worst fears were confirmed. The ships showed signs of modular construction, as if they had been built to serve multiple purposes. What looked like cargo bays were actually weapon magazines. What appeared to be mining equipment were actually gun batteries. For 70 years, Torres continued, humanity has been building this fleet. We hoped we would never need it. But we knew that someday, someone would try to make us kneel. Today is that day. You're bluffing, Kythera said desperately. No species could hide construction on this scale. Torres activated a new display showing the human fleet in full tactical formation. Admiral, we didn't hide it. We built it right, in front of you. Your spies reported exactly what they saw: mining operations, research facilities, colony construction. They just never imagined that humans could build weapons and homes with the same materials. Kythera's tactical officer whispered urgent reports in her ear. The human formation was perfect, their ships positioned to create overlapping fields of fire. Worse, long-range scans were detecting more human installations throughout the Sol system. What intelligence had dismissed as civilian infrastructure was revealing weapon signatures. Last chance, Admiral, Torres said. Withdraw now and tell the hegemony that humanity will defend itself. Continue this attack and discover what we built while you weren't paying attention. For a moment, Kythera considered retreat. The smart tactical move would be to withdraw and call for reinforcements. But she commanded the pride of the hegemony fleet, and 300 years of naval tradition demanded she fight. All ships, she ordered on the fleet frequency. Prepare for battle. Show these primitives the power of true galactic civilization. Torres sighed as she watched the hegemony ships power their weapons. So be it. All ships, this is Admiral Torres. The enemy has chosen war. Defend your homes, protect your families, and show the galaxy that humanity bows to no one. The space around Earth erupted in fire. The hegemony opened with their most powerful weapons: quantum lances that could crack planets and antimatter torpedoes that could destroy moons. The attack should have shattered the human fleet in seconds. Instead, the human ships absorbed the damage and returned fire with weapons that made no sense. Railguns that fired projectiles at relativistic speeds. Energy beams that tore through shields like paper. Missile swarms that seemed to think for themselves. Impossible, Kythera shouted as her flagship shuddered under human fire. Where did they get this technology? Her science officer provided the answer that changed everything. Admiral, analysis shows these weapons combine technologies from dozens of different species. They have been collecting, stealing, and reverse engineering alien technology for decades. Kythera realized the horrible truth. Every diplomatic mission, every trade agreement, every cultural exchange had been an opportunity for humans to study and copy advanced technology. They had not just built a fleet in secret, they had armed it with the best weapons from across the galaxy. The battle raged around Earth as two very different philosophies of warfare clashed. The hegemony fought with discipline and superior technology. The humans fought with desperation and innovation. And slowly, impossibly, the humans began to win. The galaxy watched in shock as the invincible hegemony fleet found itself outmaneuvered by enemies they had dismissed as primitive. The war for humanity's freedom had begun, and the outcome was far from certain. The battle for Earth exploded across space in ways that defied every tactical manual in the hegemony fleet. Admiral Torres had not been lying when she said humans fought differently. Captain Vex of the Korthak heavy cruiser Dominion watched in horror as a human destroyer, its hull cracked open and venting atmosphere, altered course directly toward his ship. The human vessel was clearly dying, but it was accelerating instead of retreating. "They're ramming us," his tactical officer screamed. "Evasive maneuvers," Vex ordered, but it was too late. The human ship struck the Dominion's midship section with the force of a small asteroid. Both vessels exploded in a ball of fire and debris. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out as human ships engaged in tactics that no sane species would attempt. They used their own vessels as weapons, ramming enemy ships when their guns ran out of ammunition. They flew through debris fields that would destroy normal ships, using the wreckage as cover while they repaired battle damage. Fleet Admiral Kythera watched from the bridge of the Sovereign Destiny as her careful battle plan fell apart. Status. Report. "We've lost 47 ships," her tactical officer reported, his voice shaking. "The humans have lost 32, but they're not fighting like any fleet we've encountered before." Kithara studied the tactical display. The human formation had scattered into what looked like chaos, but she was beginning to see the pattern. They were using Earth's asteroid belt as a massive weapons platform, drawing hegemony ships into carefully prepared kill zones. "Sir," the sensor operator called out, "I'm detecting new energy signatures from the outer system." On the display, installations that intelligence had marked as simple mining operations began lighting up with massive power readings. What they had thought were asteroid mining rigs revealed themselves as something far more dangerous. The first railgun fired from Ceres Station, sending a projectile the size of a transport ship racing across the solar system at 12%, the speed of light. It struck a hegemony battlecruiser amidships, tearing through its shields and armor like they were paper. "Impossible," Kithara whispered as more installations throughout the asteroid belt opened fire. "How long have they been building this?" Her intelligence chief provided the answer she dreaded. "Admiral, construction analysis suggests these installations are at least 50 years old. The humans have turned their entire star system into a fortress." The space around Earth became a nightmare of crossfire as hidden weapons revealed themselves throughout the Sol system. Mining stations fired railguns that could destroy capital ships with single shots. Research facilities launched swarms of missiles that hunted enemy vessels with deadly intelligence. Even civilian habitats sprouted defensive weapons that had been built into their very foundations. But the hegemony was not helpless. Their ships were more advanced, their crews better trained, and their commanders more experienced. Fleet Admiral Kithara rallied her forces for a concentrated attack on the largest human vessel. "All ships, focus fire on their flagship," she ordered. "Destroy their command ship and their fleet will collapse." The Sovereign Destiny led the charge against Admiral Torres's command vessel, the Terran Sovereign. The two massive dreadnoughts closed distance while trading devastating fire. Quantum lances met experimental energy weapons in exchanges that lit up space like new stars. On the bridge of the Terran Sovereign, Admiral Torres felt her ship shake under the enemy bombardment. "Damage report!" "Forward shields down to 30%, her tactical officer called out. "We've lost 2 weapon batteries and have hull breaches on decks 15 through 20. Torres studied her tactical display. The hegemony flagship was powerful, but it was fighting according to standard doctrine. It maintained safe distance while using its superior weapons to wear down the human ship. Torres had a different approach in mind. "All power to engines," she ordered. "Prepare ramming speed." "Admiral?" her first officer asked in surprise. "The aliens think they know how we fight," Torres said with a grim smile. "Let's show them they're wrong." The Terran Sovereign suddenly accelerated directly toward the Sovereign Destiny, closing the distance at maximum speed. Kithara watched in shock as the massive human ship bore down on her flagship. "They're insane," she shouted. "Ramming at this velocity will destroy both ships." But Torres had no intention of ramming. At the last possible moment, the Terran Sovereign rolled sideways and fired every weapon it had into the Sovereign Destiny's hull at point-blank range. The concentrated firepower tore through shields and armor that had never been breached before. "Return fire," Kithara ordered, but the damage was already done. Her flagship was crippled, its main weapons offline and its engines damaged. The battle raged for 18 hours. The hegemony had superior technology and numbers, but the humans fought with a combination of desperation, innovation, and sheer bloody-minded determination that shocked their enemies. They used tactics that violated every rule of civilized warfare, ramming attacks, kamikaze runs, using their own damaged ships as guided missiles. More importantly, they had prepared for this battle in ways the hegemony could not have imagined. Every piece of civilian infrastructure in the Sol system served dual purposes: cargo containers that were actually missile launchers, communication satellites that were really sensor networks, transport ships that were secretly armed with experimental weapons. Captain Zorix of the hegemony light cruiser Eternal watched a human cargo hauler approaching his position. The vessel showed no weapons on scans and was broadcasting a surrender signal. Following standard procedure, he moved to accept the surrender. "Sir," his tactical officer warned, "I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from that cargo ship." "It's a civilian vessel," Zorix replied. "Prepare a boarding party." The cargo ship exploded without warning, taking the Eternal with it in a blast that could be seen from Earth. In the wreckage, investigators would later find that the entire ship had been packed with experimental explosives disguised as normal cargo. As the battle continued, it became clear that humanity had been preparing for this war longer and more thoroughly than anyone had imagined. They had studied every hegemony battle in recorded history. They had analyzed alien tactics and developed counters for standard strategies. They had built weapons specifically designed to exploit weaknesses in hegemony ship designs. Admiral Kythera's science officer reported during a brief lull in the fighting, "I've been analyzing their weapons. They're not just human technology. These systems incorporate design elements from dozens of species." Kythera felt sick as she understood. For centuries, humans had been quietly collecting alien technology through trade, diplomacy, and espionage. Every cultural exchange had been an opportunity to study advanced systems. Every diplomatic mission had included intelligence operatives gathering technical data. The humans had not just built a secret fleet. They had armed it with the best technology from across the galaxy. The tide of battle turned when the hidden installations in the outer system activated their full firepower. What the hegemony had thought were simple mining operations revealed themselves as massive weapons platforms built into asteroids and hidden in nebulae. Crossfire from 6 different directions caught the hegemony fleet in a carefully planned trap. Ships that had fought their way through the inner system defenses found themselves under attack from weapons they had not even known existed. "We're surrounded," Kythera's tactical officer reported. "Enemy fire is coming from installations throughout the system. We're taking casualties from positions we can't even see." Kythera realized the horrible truth. The humans had not just prepared for this battle. They had designed the entire Sol system as one massive weapons platform. Every asteroid, every station, every seemingly innocent installation was part of a coordinated defense network that had taken decades to complete. As hegemony ships began retreating toward the edge of the system, Admiral Torres opened a communication channel to all surviving enemy vessels. "Hegemony forces," she announced, "you came here to make us surrender. Instead, you found out what humans do when threatened with extinction. This is your only warning. Leave now, and spread the word throughout the galaxy. Humanity stands free, and we will remain free." Fleet Admiral Kythera, her flagship crippled and her fleet shattered, made the hardest decision of her military career. All ships, begin withdrawal from the Sol system. Emergency jump to Rally Point 7. As the surviving hegemony vessels limped away from Earth, they left behind nearly half their fleet destroyed or captured. The invincible war machine that had conquered dozens of species had been defeated by enemies they had dismissed as primitive. The galaxy received Admiral Torres's final transmission as the human fleet tended to its wounds. "Let it be known that humanity stands free. We sought peace, but we prepared for war. Any who would enslave us will find the same welcome that awaited the hegemony today." The age of hegemony dominance was over. The age of human power had begun. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, the galaxy was a very different place. Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked through the Grand Assembly Hall where she had once received humanity's death sentence. Now alien delegates stood when she entered the chamber. The same beings who had watched with pleasure as the hegemony delivered their ultimatum now treated her with careful respect. The hegemony itself was crumbling. 3 member species had declared independence in the weeks following their devastating defeat. Others questioned why they should follow leaders who had led them into such a catastrophic war. The Vorthon Prime Speaker, who had once spoken with such confidence about human submission, now avoided direct eye contact when Elena addressed the assembly. "The Terran Federation wishes to address the Concordat," Elena announced, her voice carrying easily through the vast chamber. "The Assembly recognizes the human delegation," the Prime Speaker replied, his crystal form dimmer than before. Elena looked around the hall at thousands of alien faces. Some showed fear, others curiosity, but none showed the dismissive contempt she had faced 6 months ago. Humanity had earned their attention with blood and fire. "The Terran Federation proposes the establishment of the Free Species Compact," she began. "An alliance of independent civilizations committed to mutual defense against tyranny. Excited whispers filled the chamber. Several species had already approached Elena privately about such an alliance. The defeat of the hegemony had shown that even the most powerful empires could be challenged. On Earth, President Chen addressed a joint session of the reformed Galactic Concordat via holographic link. The chamber where he spoke was new, built to replace the government buildings destroyed during the battle. Through the windows behind him, construction crews worked to repair the damage from hegemony bombardment. The Terran Federation does not seek to replace the hegemony as galactic overlords, Chen said, his words translated into hundreds of languages. We seek something better, a galaxy where strength protects the weak instead of enslaving them. The response was immediate and powerful. Representatives from 47 different species requested membership in the new alliance. Some were small civilizations that had lived in fear of hegemony expansion. Others were former hegemony members seeking new protection. A few were powerful species that had remained neutral, but now saw opportunity in the changing order. But the victory had come at a terrible cost. The secret construction projects that enabled humanity's triumph had required enormous sacrifices from every human colony. Entire generations had grown up knowing their parents worked on projects they could never discuss. Resources that could have built comfortable cities went instead to hidden weapons factories and disguised military installations. On Mars, Sarah, Chen stood in the memorial garden dedicated to the thousands of humans who had died in the battle. Her father's decisions had saved humanity, but the weight of those choices was visible in his graying hair and tired eyes. Was it worth it? She asked him during one of his rare visits to the colony. President Chen looked at the names carved into the memorial wall. Sarah, your great-grandmother lived through World War III. She used to tell me that freedom isn't free. It has to be earned by every generation. But the cost. The cost of fighting was terrible, Chen agreed. But the cost of surrender would have been worse. The hegemony didn't just want to control us, they wanted to erase us, turn us into another subjugated species with no will of their own. Far from Earth, the Terran sovereign patrolled the trade routes between star systems. Admiral Torres had transformed her flagship from a weapon of war into a symbol of protection. The massive vessel served as a mobile embassy, its presence guaranteeing safe passage for merchant ships and refugees fleeing hegemony territory. Admiral, her communications officer reported, we're receiving a distress call from the Nexus system. Pirates are attacking civilian transports. Torres smiled grimly. In the old galaxy, such attacks were common and often ignored by major powers, but humanity had introduced a new philosophy of intervention. Set course for Nexus, she ordered. It seems someone needs to learn that pirates are no longer welcome in civilized space. The Terran sovereign's arrival in the Nexus system demonstrated why piracy had become a dangerous profession. The raiders found themselves facing weapons that could destroy their ships from distances they had thought safe, deployed by a crew that fought with the same desperate innovation that had defeated the hegemony. Within hours, the surviving pirates were fleeing toward the galactic rim, carrying word that human protection was not just a promise, it was a guarantee backed by overwhelming force. But humanity's greatest achievement was not military. In hidden shipyards throughout their territory, new classes of vessels took shape. These were not weapons of war, but ships designed to explore, to build, to protect. Colony ships that could establish new worlds in months instead of years. Hospital ships that brought advanced medical care to species that had never imagined such treatment. Research vessels that shared scientific discoveries freely instead of hoarding them. The galaxy watched in amazement as humanity used their military victory to build something unprecedented, an empire based on protection instead of conquest. On a small world in the former hegemony territory, Governor Maria Santos oversaw the evacuation of a species facing extinction from a dying star. The refugee fleet that humanity provided was larger than the entire space force the aliens had possessed. "Why do you help us?" asked the alien leader, a being whose crystalline form reminded Maria of the Vorthan Prime speaker. "We cannot repay such generosity." Maria smiled as she watched human and alien children playing together in the refugee camps. "Because someone needs to prove that the strong can protect the weak instead of enslaving them. Because this galaxy has seen enough tyranny and fear. The transformation was not limited to military affairs. Human technology, developed in secret for decades, began flowing to allied species. Medical advances that could extend lifespans by centuries, agricultural techniques that could make barren worlds bloom with life, educational systems that encouraged innovation instead of conformity. But perhaps the most important change was philosophical. For thousands of years, galactic civilization had been based on hierarchy and control. The hegemony and similar powers maintained order through fear and overwhelming force. Humanity introduced a radical concept that civilizations could cooperate without one dominating the others. The Free Species Compact grew rapidly, but not through conquest or coercion. Species joined because they saw the benefits of alliance with equals rather than submission to superiors. They contributed their unique strengths to the common defense while maintaining their independence and cultures. In the depths of space, human shipyards continued their work. The fleet that had emerged to face the hegemony was only the beginning. New classes of vessels incorporated lessons learned from the battle and technologies shared by allied species. More importantly, they were designed with a new philosophy: weapons that protected rather than conquered, strength that served rather than dominated. Admiral Torres stood on the bridge of the Terran Sovereign, watching a convoy of refugee ships from 3 different species traveling under human protection. Once, such a sight would have been impossible. Different species feared and distrusted each other, and major powers used that fear to maintain control. "Admiral," her first officer reported, "long-range sensors are detecting hegemony remnant forces moving toward the Arcturus sector. They appear to be targeting independent colonies." Torres nodded. "Signal the fleet. It's time to remind the galaxy that tyranny has consequences." As the human fleet moved to intercept the raiders, Torres reflected on how much had changed. 6 months ago, humanity had been a minor species facing extinction. Now they were the guardians of galactic freedom, protectors of the weak and champions of justice. The galaxy would never be the same. The age of empires built on fear was ending. The age of alliances built on hope had begun. Elena Vasquez concluded her address to the Galactic Concordat with words that would be remembered for generations. "The Terran Federation makes this promise to all civilizations. We will not conquer you, we will not rule you, but we will protect you. Freedom has guardians now, and they will not be moved." The assembly erupted in applause that lasted for nearly an hour. Species that had lived in fear for millennia finally dared to hope for something better. The galaxy was entering a new era, built on the foundation of humanity's greatest victory. The day they said no to an ultimatum and backed their refusal with fire and steel. In the darkness between stars, human shipyards worked around the clock, building not just ships but a future where strength served justice and power protected the innocent. The age of human expansion had begun, and with it, a new hope for peace among the stars. Humanity had kept their promise. They had shown the galaxy what they were truly capable of building in the dark, and they would never stop building, never stop protecting, never stop proving that freedom was worth any sacrifice. The stars themselves bore witness. Humanity stood ready, and tyranny would never again go unchallenged among the infinite cosmos. The message came on a Tuesday morning. Commander Lisa Harmon was drinking her coffee on the observation deck of Earth Defense Station, watchful eye. Through the large window she could see Earth, blue and peaceful against the blackness of space. For 200 years humans had been part of the great galactic community. For 3,000 years before that, the many alien races had lived in peace with each other. Lisa enjoyed these quiet moments before her shift. The warm cup in her hands, the beautiful view of home and the gentle hum of the station around her made her feel content. Everything was normal. Everything was fine. Then Officer Diane Miller's voice came through the speaker. "Commander, we're receiving a message from the Galactic Council. Priority 1. Lisa sighed and put down her coffee. Priority 1 meant it couldn't wait. "I'll be right there." The command center was busy with the morning shift. Screens displayed information from all parts of the station and from ships moving through Earth's space. Lisa nodded to her crew as she walked to the main communication console. Put it through, she said. The largest screen flickered, and the image of Ambassador Zextar appeared. He was a Zenturian, one of the oldest species in the council. Tall and thin, with blue-green scales that shimmered in the light, he had 4 eyes that blinked independently of each other. Normally, Zextar was friendly, and even smiled in the human way when they met. Today, his face was serious. "Commander Harmon," he said, his voice deeper than usual, "I bring a formal message from the Galactic Unified Council." Lisa straightened her uniform. A formal message was rare. "The Earth Defense Force is ready to receive it, Ambassador." Zextar didn't respond to her words. Instead, he began to speak, in the ancient formal language of the Council. The computer translated automatically. After careful consideration, the Galactic Unified Council has determined that humanity represents an existential threat to galactic stability and peace. Despite our efforts to integrate your species, your unpredictable nature and rapid technological advancement cannot be tolerated. You have 7 standard cycles to surrender your colonies and prepare for assimilation. If you resist, you will be eliminated. This decision is final and unanimous. The screen went black. Lisa stood frozen, her mind trying to process what she had just heard. The peaceful council, which had welcomed humanity with open arms, had just declared war. It made no sense. The command center was silent. Everyone had heard the message. Lisa turned to look at her crew, expecting to see fear or shock on their faces. Chief Engineer Frank Winters broke the silence. He laughed, a single sharp sound that echoed through the quiet room. "Are they joking?" he asked, looking around at the others. Security Chief Vincent Rodriguez shook his head, but there was a smile forming on his face. "If they are, it's the worst joke in galactic history." More laughter began to spread through the command center. Communications Officer Diane Miller was trying to hide her smile behind her hand. Navigator Paul Johnson was openly chuckling at his station. "People," Lisa said, trying to sound serious. "This is a declaration of war from the most powerful organization in the galaxy. We should be terrified?" Frank interrupted. "Come on, Commander. Have they forgotten what happened the last time someone tried to conquer Earth?" Lisa knew what he meant. Before joining the galactic community, humans had almost destroyed themselves many times. Nuclear wars, climate disasters, deadly viruses. They had faced extinction again and again. Each time they had survived. Each time they had grown stronger. Compared to humanity's own self-destructive history, an alien invasion seemed almost simple. Despite herself, Lisa felt a smile forming. "Protocol says we need to inform Earth Central Command. Admiral Jackson is going to love this." The crew laughed again, louder this time. The tension in the room broke completely. Lisa sent the message to Earth, adding a note about the crew's reaction. She expected Central Command to order immediate preparations for war. Instead, the response was brief. "Acknowledged. Implementing protocol laughter. Stand by for orders." Protocol laughter. Lisa had heard rumors about it, a defense strategy developed specifically for this scenario, but she had never thought it would be used. The idea that Earth's military had a plan called laughter made her smile again. News of the Council's declaration spread quickly. On the station's common channels, Lisa saw reactions from all over human space. A bar on Mars was holding an end-of-the-world party. Miners on Europa were taking bets on how long the war would last. On colony worlds, local governments were making announcements that sounded more like jokes than serious war preparations. No one was panicking. No one was afraid. Humanity had faced its end many times before, usually by its own hand. An outside threat? That was almost refreshing. By evening, the first memes were spreading through the networks. Pictures of Zenturians with funny captions. Video clips of old Earth movies about alien invasions, edited to make them even more ridiculous. Songs with new lyrics about the coming war. In her quarters, Lisa checked the latest updates from Earth. The planet's unified defense system was activating, but it wasn't being done in secret. The news channels were showing it all, treating it like a big show rather than preparation for war. A message from her friend Captain Sam Wilson on the defense ship, Last Laugh, popped up on her screen. "Just got our orders," it read. "We're supposed to act like we're in total confusion, while actually moving to defensive positions. The aliens are going to think we're complete idiots until we hit them with everything we've got. This is going to be fun." Lisa shook her head, smiling. Only humans would see a galactic war as fun. Her screen beeped again, a message from Admiral Jackson himself. "Commander Harmon, your station will play a key role in Protocol Laughter. Continue normal operations. Appear unprepared. Let any alien observers see humans laughing at the threat. Meanwhile, your tech team will be receiving encrypted instructions to modify the station's defense systems. The enemy expects fear. Show them laughter instead." Outside her window, Earth continued to spin peacefully. For now, nothing had changed. No alien ships filled the sky, no weapons fired. Just a message, a threat from across the stars. Lisa thought about the Zenturians and the other council races. They had studied humans for 200 years, yet they had missed the most important thing about them. Humans didn't fear the end of the world. They had been expecting it, preparing for it, even causing it themselves for thousands of years. When faced with destruction, humans didn't cower. They laughed. Then they fought back. And as the first day of the first galactic war in 3,000 years came to an end, that laughter spread across human space, a sound that would soon make even the mighty council wonder what they had started. High Admiral Vexithalor stood on the bridge of the Zenturian warship Eternal Glory. He was the most respected military leader in the galaxy. For 200 years he had served the Galactic Council. Never in that time had he faced a real war. The last war had ended 3,000 years ago, long before he was born. Now he led the largest fleet ever assembled. 10,000 warships moved through space toward the human home system. Their engines glowed blue against the blackness. Each ship carried weapons that could destroy entire cities. Together, they could turn planets to dust. "Status report," Vexus Thalor said, his 4 eyes scanning the large display in front of him. Sub-Admiral Krill, his second-in-command, stepped forward. Her scales were darker than his, almost purple in the ship's light. "We are 3 days from Earth system, Admiral," she said. "Our scouts report that the humans appear to be unprepared." Vex Thalor turned all 4 eyes to her. "Unprepared? We declared war. They should be mobilizing their defenses." Krill shifted uncomfortably. "They are not, sir. Our intelligence ships near Earth report unusual behavior. The humans are having parties. Their news channels are showing jokes about us. They seem to be treating our declaration as entertainment." "Show me," Vexithalor demanded. The main screen changed to show images from Earth. Humans in bars, raising glasses and laughing. Street parties with signs that made fun of the council. News hosts smiling as they discussed the coming war. "This makes no sense," Vexithalor said quietly. "The council's analysis predicted immediate surrender or panic. Humans are supposed to be emotional and easily frightened. Perhaps they don't understand the seriousness of their situation," Krill suggested. "Their military is tiny compared to ours." Vexithalor was not convinced. Something felt wrong about all this. The humans were acting too strangely. Were they hiding something? "Increase surveillance," he ordered. "I want to know what they're really doing." On Earth, the real preparations were happening below the surface. Beneath the laughter and jokes, humanity was getting ready for war. In a deep underground base in what had once been called North America, the Earth Defense Force leaders gathered around a large table. Admiral Sharon Jackson, head of the Defense Force, pointed to a holographic display of the solar system. "The alien fleet will reach our outer defenses in 3 days, she said to the group of men and women around her. "Protocol Laughter is working perfectly. They think we're not taking them seriously." General William Carter nodded. He was in charge of Earth's ground forces. "My teams report that the hidden missile platforms around Jupiter are fully operational. The aliens don't know they exist." "What about the colony worlds?" asked Fleet Commander Maria Lopez. "They're more vulnerable than Earth." "All colonies have activated their defense systems," Admiral Jackson assured her. And we've secretly moved ships to protect the major ones. The aliens will find more waiting for them than they expect. Meanwhile, in a smaller room nearby, Earth's top computer experts were working on another part of the plan. Olivia Grant, the best hacker on the planet, sat with her team in front of multiple screens. Her fingers moved quickly over her keyboard as she worked her way into the alien fleet's communication systems. "We're in," she announced to her colleague Ben Martinez, who sat beside her. "Their security is good, but not good enough." "What now?" Ben asked, looking at the strange alien symbols on the screen. Olivia grinned. "Now we watch and learn. We don't disrupt anything yet. But I think we should leave them a little message to find." She typed quickly, then hit enter. "There. I just planted an old Earth song in their main communication system. In about 6 hours, every screen on their command ship will start playing. Never gonna give you up," Ben laughed. "You just rickrolled an alien invasion fleet?" "Translated into all 27 of their dialects," Olivia said proudly. "It's a classic for a reason." On the colony world New Montana, things were also moving forward. Governor Greg Porter stood in front of a crowd of colonists. Behind him, workers were moving large defense equipment into underground bunkers. "Folks," he said into a microphone, "we've all heard about the Council's declaration of war. Some of you are worried, and that's natural. But let me remind you of what we've already faced here on New Montana." He looked out at the crowd, making eye contact with many people he had known for years. "We've survived prairie fires that burned for months. We've rebuilt after megastorms that destroyed whole towns. We've learned to live alongside those six-legged buffalo things that keep trying to eat our crops. Some fancy aliens with delusions of grandeur? That's just Tuesday's problem." The crowd laughed, and Governor Porter smiled. "Our defense teams are ready. Our bunkers are stocked. And Earth hasn't forgotten us, so go home, hug your families, and maybe make some alien-shaped cookies to laugh at while we wait." As the crowd dispersed, Porter's smile faded. He knew the real situation was serious. The colony had good defenses, but not enough to stop a determined attack. They needed time for Earth's fleet to reach them if the aliens came here first. Back in space, Commander Lisa Harmon received new orders for the Watchful Eye station. The message was encrypted, coming directly from Admiral Jackson. "Commander," it read, "your station will be the first line of defense if the alien fleet approaches Earth directly. We have reason to believe they may target you as a show of force. Your orders are as follows. Continue to appear unprepared and unconcerned. Meanwhile, activate the station's hidden defense systems using code sequence Bravo Echo 9. The package arriving with this message contains special communication devices. If the aliens try to board your station, use these to let them hear your crew laughing at them. Psychological warfare can be as effective as physical weapons." Lisa read the message twice, then deleted it as instructed. The package mentioned in the message had arrived an hour earlier. Inside were small communication devices that could broadcast the sounds from the station to any ships nearby. "Clever," Lisa said to herself. She called her senior officers to a private meeting to explain the new orders. As the third day approached, the mood across human space remained strangely calm. People went to work, children went to school, and life continued almost normally. But underground, in space stations, and in hidden facilities across a dozen worlds, humans prepared for the fight they had always expected would come someday. And, when High Admiral Vexith Thylor's scouts reported that they had detected no major defensive preparations from the humans, he became even more suspicious. No species faced extinction with laughter. The humans were planning something, and he was determined to find out what it was before his fleet arrived at their doorstep. What he didn't know was that humanity had been preparing for the end of the world since they first imagined it could happen. And unlike the Council species who had known peace for so long they had forgotten war, humans had never stopped expecting the worst, while hoping for the best and laughing at the difference between the two. The first battle happened near Jupiter. A small human defense fleet of 20 ships faced a Zenturian battle group of over 200 vessels. Admiral Kyle Peterson stood on the bridge of his ship, the Persistent Joke. The name was painted, in bright yellow letters on the dark hull. Most human ships had similar names now. Bad Joke, Punchline, and Dad's Humor floated nearby, their crews ready for the coming fight. "They're entering visual range," said Navigation Officer Susan. Lee? They're not trying to hide. Kyle nodded. The alien ships were huge compared to the human vessels. Each one bristled with weapons that could tear through Earth's defenses. If this was a normal battle between equal forces, the humans would have no chance. But this was not a normal battle. Open a channel to their lead ship, Kyle ordered. Communications. Officer Ryan Green pressed some buttons on his console. Channel open, sir. The main screen lit up with the image of a Zenturian commander. His blue scales shimmered under the lights of his ship. All four of his eyes narrowed when he saw Kyle. This is Commander Zexaval of the Zenturian battlecruiser. Righteous Fury, the alien said. You are outnumbered and outgunned. Surrender now or be destroyed. Kyle smiled pleasantly at the alien. Good morning, Commander. This is Admiral Kyle Peterson of the Earth Defense Force. Before you start shooting at us, I thought you should know that we've seeded your ship with approximately 300 rubber ducks. The alien blinked all four eyes in confusion. What are you talking about? What is a rubber duck? It's a small yellow bath toy, Kyle explained calmly. They're set to start quacking simultaneously in about 5 minutes. The alien commander's face showed a mix of confusion and anger. Your attempt at psychological warfare is primitive and, right on cue, a chorus of quacks echoed through the alien ship's command center. The Zenturian commander turned in shock as his crew began looking around in confusion. Some small, yellow objects had somehow appeared on their bridge. Kyle gave a signal to his weapons officer. In that moment of distraction, the human ships launched their first strike. But they didn't use normal weapons. Instead, they fired specialized electromagnetic pulses that disrupted the neural interfaces the Zenturians used to control their ships. The battle erupted suddenly. Human ships, much smaller and faster than the alien vessels, darted between the massive dreadnoughts. They didn't try to destroy the alien ships. Instead, they focused on disabling their systems and causing confusion. On the persistent joke, Kyle watched as his plan unfolded. Launch the countermeasures, he ordered. Small devices shot out from the human ships attaching to the hulls of the alien vessels. Once in place, they began broadcasting signals that made the aliens' targeting systems identify their own ships as enemies. Soon, the Zenturian battle group was firing on itself, unable to tell friend from foe. Their communication systems played strange Earth music instead of tactical information. Their navigation systems showed false targets. And everywhere, small yellow rubber ducks appeared, quacking loudly. The battle lasted only 40 minutes. When it ended, the human fleet had lost 3 ships, with their crews safely evacuated. The Zenturian battle group was in complete disarray. Half their ships were disabled, floating helplessly in space. The rest were retreating, their crews unable to understand what had happened. On Earth, people watched the battle through quantum entanglement feeds, technology the Council didn't know humans possessed. In homes, bars, and public squares, crowds cheered each successful maneuver by the human ships. In a bar in what had once been called Chicago, a group of friends raised their glasses as they watched the aliens retreat to rubber ducks. One man shouted and everyone laughed. Children played with new toys that had been hastily manufactured to look like the alien ships. When the toys were knocked over, they made comical sounds and flashed lights. Teenagers wore t-shirts with jokes about the war. Street vendors sold alien food, normal Earth food with strange colors and funny names. But beneath the laughter and celebrations, serious work continued. In laboratories and military bases, scientists and soldiers prepared for the battles to come. They knew this was only the beginning. On the colony world New Montana, the first alien forces landed 3 hours after the battle near Jupiter. They expected to find a defenseless farming community. Instead, they found empty streets and buildings. The colonists had retreated to underground bunkers following their evacuation plan. From there, they activated the defense systems hidden throughout their settlement. Small drones rose from hidden compartments in the ground, surrounding the alien soldiers. The drones didn't attack. They just projected holographic images of laughing human faces while playing recorded messages in the aliens' own language. Welcome to New Montana. We hope you brought sunscreen, and Our weather forecast today, cloudy with a chance of invasion. The alien commander ordered his troops to destroy the drones, but for each one they shot down, 3 more appeared. Meanwhile, the real defense was happening underground. Governor Greg Porter communicated with Earth using quantum channels, reporting the alien positions and strengths. They brought about 500 troops. He told Admiral Jackson, "They're getting frustrated with our drones, but they haven't found the real defenses yet." "Hold your position," Admiral Jackson replied. "Help is on the way. The last laugh battle group will reach you in 6 hours. Just keep the aliens distracted until then." Porter nodded. "We can do that. These folks have never dealt with bored farmers before. We've got tricks they haven't even imagined." Back in space, High Admiral Vexathalor received the news of his battle group's defeat near Jupiter. He sat in his private chamber aboard the Eternal Glory, trying to understand what had happened. "It makes no sense," he told Sub-Admiral Krill. "Commander Zexval reports that his ships were attacked by bath toys, and then they started firing on each other." Krill looked as confused as he felt. "The humans must have technology we don't know about. Our intelligence report said they were at least a century behind us." "Our intelligence was wrong," Vexathalor said firmly. "The humans have been hiding their true capabilities. The question is why, and why respond to our declaration of war with laughter and jokes?" On Earth, Dr. Nancy Ellis was explaining this very question to the United Nations. As Earth's leading expert on alien psychology, she understood what the Council species couldn't. Laughter, she explained to the gathered representatives, has always been humanity's response to fear. It's how we cope with the unbearable. Throughout our history, the darkest humor emerged from our darkest times. The aliens don't understand this, because their species evolved differently. They expect us to respond with either aggression or submission. She showed images of the alien brain structures compared to human ones. "See this area here? In humans, it processes both fear and humor. In Centurions and other Council species, these are completely separate. They literally cannot understand why we would laugh at something frightening." As Dr. Ellis finished her presentation, news arrived of another victory. The small stealth fleet led by Captain Eric Daniels aboard the Silent Chuckle had successfully infiltrated a Centurion supply line. They had replaced the aliens' weapon components with non-functional replicas that would fall apart when used. The war was only beginning, but already the tide was turning. The mighty Council forces, expecting an easy victory against primitive humans, found themselves facing an enemy unlike any they had encountered before, one that treated war as both deadly serious business and an elaborate prank. And as the first day of actual fighting ended, humanity's laughter echoed across the stars, a sound that was becoming the most frightening weapon of all to the confused alien forces. 1 week into the war, the Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. Representatives from 200 species gathered in their grand hall on the Council homeworld. The mood was grim. No one was laughing except the humans. Earth Ambassador Jack Nguyen sat calmly in his seat, a small smile on his face. He was the only human in the room. Around him, alien representatives whispered to each other, casting nervous glances his way. The council leader, an ancient being named Vorthal, called for silence. His species was one of the oldest in the galaxy, with skin like wrinkled paper and eyes that had seen thousands of years of peace. "This war is not proceeding as expected," Vorthal said, his voice echoing through the hall. "Our forces have suffered defeats that cannot be explained. The humans are using tactics and technology we did not know they possessed." Ambassador Nguyen's smile grew slightly wider. "Ambassador?" Vorthal turned to the human. "Perhaps you can explain why your species responds to war with laughter. Our psychological experts are confused." Jack stood up slowly, looking around at the aliens who had declared war on his people. "With respect, Council Leader, that is exactly why you're losing this war. You don't understand humans, and you never tried to. We laugh at danger because we've lived with it for our entire history." He pulled out a small device and placed it on the table. It projected images of Earth's past, world wars, natural disasters, plagues, and climate catastrophes. "This is what shaped us," Jack continued. We nearly destroyed ourselves many times. Each time, we survived. Each time we learned to laugh at death because the alternative was to give in to fear, and humans who give in to fear make bad decisions. The aliens watched in silence as the images showed humans rebuilding after disasters, helping each other, and yes, laughing even in the darkest times. You thought we would surrender because your ships are bigger and your weapons are stronger, Jack said. But humans have always faced enemies that were bigger and stronger. We're still here. They're not. Deep in space, far from the council meeting, Captain Eric Daniels led his small stealth fleet on another mission. His ship, the Silent Chucklehen, was nearly invisible to alien sensors. It was painted with a special material that absorbed light and energy, making it appear as just another patch of empty space. Target in range, his sensor officer reported quietly. It's a council supply depot. Minimal defenses. Eric nodded. Perfect. Remember, we're not here to destroy it, we're here to redecorate. His crew smiled. They had done this 5 times already. Each mission had been more successful than the last. The Silent Chuckle and its 3 sister ships moved silently toward the alien station. Unlike most human vessels, these ships carried no weapons. Instead, they carried specialized hacking equipment and small robots designed to infiltrate alien systems. Launch the bots, Eric ordered. Hundreds of tiny robots, each no bigger than a coin, shot out from the human ships. They attached themselves to the hull of the alien station and began cutting their way inside. Once in, they would replace the aliens' computer systems with versions that looked identical, but would malfunction in amusing ways. Meanwhile on Earth, Dr. Nancy Ellis was meeting with military leaders to discuss the psychological aspect of the war. The meeting took place in a secure room deep beneath the United Nations building. The council species have been at peace for so long that they've forgotten how to handle surprise, she explained. Their military tactics are from textbooks, 3,000 years old. They expect us to follow the same rules they do. Admiral Sharon Jackson nodded. That's why protocol laughter is working. They can't adapt to our unconventional approach. Exactly, Dr. Ellis agreed. But there's something else you should know. Our spies in the council report that some species are beginning to question this war. They didn't expect casualties, they didn't expect defeat. Peace for 3,000 years has made them soft. General William Carter frowned. So we might be able to end this without destroying them completely? I believe so, Dr. Ellis said. If we can show them that continuing this war will cost too much, they might be willing to negotiate. They need to save face, but they also need to stop losing ships and soldiers. On New Montana, the situation had changed dramatically. The last Laugh battle group had arrived as promised, driving away. The alien invasion force. Now Governor Greg Porter was organizing a celebration in the colony's main square. We should invite them back, suggested a farmer named Susan Riley. Leave a message in orbit saying we're sorry they had to leave so soon, and we're having a party, if they want to come. Greg laughed. That's perfect, let's do it. Make sure we broadcast it on frequencies they can receive. The colonists set up tables filled with food and drink. Children played games in the square. Music filled the air. And in orbit, a message beacon continuously broadcast an invitation to the aliens who had tried to conquer them just days before. Back on the council homeworld, the emergency meeting was not going well for the council leaders. More representatives were speaking out against the war. My people have lost 30 ships, said the representative from Zentar Prime. For what? Because humans laugh too much? This war makes no sense. Others joined in, their voices growing louder. The council chamber, designed for calm and reasoned debate, had never heard such arguments before. Ambassador Jack Nguyen sat quietly, still smiling. He had sent a coded message to Earth as soon as he arrived for the meeting. Now he was waiting for the response, and it came sooner than expected. His communication device beeped softly. The message was simple. Operation Smile activated, stand by. Jack's smile grew wider. Operation Smile was the final phase of Protocol Laughter, the part that would end the war. High Admiral Vexa Thalor was having the worst day of his long career. First, he had received news that another battle group had been defeated near the human colony world New Montana. Then his own flagship had started experiencing strange malfunctions. The lighting would change colors randomly. The food dispensers produced meals that tasted like human desserts. And worst of all, every communication screen occasionally showed short videos of humans doing something called stand-up comedy. "Someone is in our systems," he growled to Sub-Admiral Krill. "Find them and remove them." Krill looked worried. "We've tried, Admiral. Our best technicians can't find the source. It's like the ship itself is laughing at us." Before Vex Thalor could respond, every light on the flagship Eternal Glory went out at once. When they came back on 5 seconds later, something had changed. On the main bridge, where before there had been only Zenturian crew members, now stood a single human woman. "Hello," said Olivia Grant, Earth's premier hacker. "I thought it was time we met in person." She wasn't really there, of course. It was a hologram projected through the ship's own systems. But the effect was shocking to the Zenturian crew. "How did you get in our systems?" Vex Thalor demanded. Olivia smiled. "I've been in your systems since before the war started. You really should update your security protocols more often. They were embarrassingly easy to crack." As Vex Thalor and his crew stared in shock, similar holograms appeared on every Council warship throughout the galaxy. Earth had just shown its true technological capability, and it far exceeded what the Council had believed possible. The message was clear. If humans could put holograms on their ships, they could have put weapons instead. The war could have been over before it began, and still, humanity was laughing. 3 months after the war began, High Admiral Vex Thalor's flagship hung in space above the Galactic Council's homeworld. But it was not there as a protector. It was there as a captive, surrounded by human vessels that had appeared from nowhere, using technology the Council had not believed possible. Vex Thalor stood at the window of his private chamber, looking out at the human ships. They were smaller than his massive flagship, but now he knew their true power. They had disabled his vessel without firing a single destructive shot. His weapons, engines, and shields had simply stopped working all at once. "Admiral, Sub-Admiral," Krill said from behind him. "The human representatives have arrived for the meeting." Vex Thalor turned slowly. "Show them in." The door slid open, and 3 humans entered. Vex Thalor recognized Earth's President Amy Reeves from intelligence briefings. Beside her stood Admiral Sharon Jackson and Ambassador Jack Nguyen. "Hi, Admiral," President Reeves said with a polite nod. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting." Vex Thalor gave the Zenturian equivalent of a laugh, a short hiss through his teeth. "Did I have a choice? You control my ship." "There is always a choice," President Reeves said. "You could continue fighting. We both know how that would end, but it is your choice to make." Vex Thalor studied the human leader. She was much smaller than him, physically weaker by far. Yet there was something in her eyes that made him uneasy. The same thing he had seen in the eyes of every human he had encountered. A calm confidence that bordered on amusement. "What do you want?" he asked finally. "Peace," President Reeves answered simply. "The same peace that existed for 3,000 years before you broke it. But with changes," Admiral Jackson added. "The old peace was built on fear. The new peace will be built on understanding." Inside the Grand Council chamber, representatives from all member species had gathered for an emergency session. The mood was tense. Through the enormous windows, they could see human ships positioned near key Council worlds, ships that had penetrated their supposedly impenetrable defenses. President Reeves stood before the Council, her expression serious but with a hint of humor in her eyes. 3,000 years ago you established peace among the stars," she said. "We respect that achievement. But peace maintained through fear isn't true peace, it's just delayed conflict." She nodded to General William Carter, who activated a holographic display. It showed hundreds of human ships now positioned near key Council worlds. Most had been invisible to Council sensors until moments ago when they all revealed themselves simultaneously. "We could have responded to your declaration of war with immediate destruction," President Reeves continued. "Instead, we responded with laughter." Not because we didn't take you seriously, but because we've learned that fear is a choice. And humanity chose long ago not to be ruled by fear. The council chamber was silent. Even the oldest members had never seen such a display of power. For 3,000 years, the council had believed itself the most advanced power in the galaxy. Now they knew different. Here are our terms, President Reeves said. The council will maintain its role in galactic governance, but with reforms. Younger species, including humanity, will be equal partners, not subjects. The defensive technologies humanity has developed will be shared with all species, ensuring that no single power can threaten the others. She looked around the chamber, meeting the many different eyes of the alien representatives. And most importantly, the council will establish a new principle. Knowledge should be shared, not hoarded. Your civilization has advanced technologies you've kept from lesser species for thousands of years. That ends today. Council leader Vorthal stood slowly, his ancient body showing the strain. And if we refuse these terms? President Reeves smiled gently. We've demonstrated that we could destroy your military capability without killing a single one of your people. We've shown that we understand your technologies better than you do. What do you think would happen if we refuse to be merciful? Outside the council building, ordinary citizens from many species had gathered. Through large public screens, they watched the proceedings inside. Many had lost family members in the short, disastrous war. None wanted it to continue. Back on Earth, people gathered in homes and public places to watch their president address the council. In a small apartment in what had once been called Boston, Lisa Harmon sat with Frank Winters. Both had been given leave from the Watchful Eye station to recover from the stress of the past months. Do you think they'll accept? Frank asked, watching the screen intently. Lisa nodded. They don't have a choice. Besides, our terms are fair. We're not asking for revenge or punishment, just equality. The council debated for less than an hour before reaching a decision. When Council Leader Vorthal spoke again, his voice carried the weight of his years. We accept your terms, President Reeves. The war is over. Let a new era of peace begin. Across human space, celebrations erupted. On colony worlds, in space stations, and on Earth itself, people cheered and laughed and cried with relief. The war that could have destroyed humanity had instead elevated it to its rightful place among the stars. As the delegates left the council chamber, an elderly council member approached Jack Nguyen, Earth's ambassador. I don't understand, the alien admitted, his voice low so others couldn't hear. You could have destroyed us, why didn't you? Jack smiled gently. Because the joke isn't funny if someone gets hurt. Humanity learned that lesson the hard way through centuries of our own conflicts. We didn't fight this war to win it. We fought it to end it once and for all. 1 month later, life across the galaxy was beginning to return to normal. But it was a new normal. Human ships now patrolled alongside council vessels. Human representatives sat on all important committees. Human teachers shared knowledge with alien students, and alien teachers did the same on Earth. On New Montana, Governor Greg Porter welcomed the first official Zenturian delegation to visit the colony. Unlike the invasion force that had come before, these visitors came in peace. We have a tradition here on New Montana, Greg told the aliens as they sat down to a feast in the colony's main square. When someone new arrives, we throw them a party. A female Zenturian tilted her head in confusion. Even former enemies? Especially former enemies, Greg replied with a smile. Nothing heals old wounds like good food and bad jokes. On Earth, children still played with toys that looked like alien ships, but now those toys came with human vessels as well, designed to play together rather than fight. In schools, students learned about the council species with curiosity rather than fear. And in government buildings, plans were made for humanity's expansion among the stars, not as conquerors, but as partners. And in deep space, where human exploration ships ventured into the unknown, they carried with them the message that had saved their species countless times. In the face of darkness, laugh, and then get to work fixing the problem, as President Reeves had told the council in her final remarks. We come from a world that tried to kill us many times. We survived by helping each other and finding humor in the darkest moments. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We just want to make sure everyone in it has the chance to laugh together. The Great Galactic War had lasted just 3 months. It had changed everything, and it had started with laughter.